The hallway that left the cargo room headed straight toward the stern. Junpei and the other three proceeded down it silently. Some distance along it, a large room opened up on the left-hand side. It looked familiar. An iron gate covered each of the elevators. Junpei and his companions drew to a stop and began to discuss what their next move should be.
We've seen this elevator before.
We got off the one on the left just a little while ago.
Then we went through the number 6 door and that took us to the engine room.
Give me a second here, guys. Just checking something. Okay. Sorry about that.
Yes, and after that we passed through the cargo room.
And now we're back here.
In other words, we made a loop. We're back where we started. Junpei approached the elevator. Gently he pushed the triangular button on the wall next to it. And a moment passed. The elevator door opened. And shut. Pushing the button had apparently restored power to the elevator. The elevator was now functional.
What do we do?
Should we return to C deck?
No, this hallway keeps going. Even if we do end up going back, I think we should see what's down there first.
I agree. Let's go.
Their decision made, Junpei and his companions left the elevators behind and continued down the hallway. Sometime later, Santa, who had been walking several paces in front of the rest, suddenly stopped. Set in the wall in front of him was a door. So far as Junpei could see, there was no other way to proceed. It was the door or nothing.
Alright, let's open it.
Junpei took a deep breath, readied himself, then grabbed the doorknob and pulled the door open. He paused for a moment, then stepped through into the room. And there he saw the number that had hung over their heads since they'd woken up.
The 9 door.
9. Like the numbers on every other door, this one too was a rough shape made of red paint. Its door was set into the back wall of the room. Junpei leapt toward it with a sudden burst of hopeful energy. It was a large double door, heavy and full of solemn importance. He grabbed hold of the door handles and shook. Nothing, but he hadn't expected it to open. The red sat on the wall next to the door. Its screen read vacant. Finally, they'd found it. Junpei felt himself overwhelmed by a torrent of emotion. At last, they'd found the exit, but cold gripped his heart, and he knew all too well why. As he stood frozen, unsure of what to think or feel.
Jumpy, look! Behind you!
He spun around and couldn't believe what he saw. It was a door with the number 9 written across it.
So there's 2 of them.
Was there a second door? Why? Junpei's voice was barely audible, even to himself. He stumbled toward the second door as if somehow compelled. It was a small single door. It sat on the starboard corner of the room, on the same wall as the door they'd entered from, but the opposite corner. 9. There was no mistaking it. A red sat on the wall next to this door as well. Junpei shook the door handle pointlessly and muttered to himself, Why? Why the hell are there 2 doors? It was Santa who answered. There were always 2 doors. Just think about it. Zero never said there is only one door with 9 on it. It is hidden, but an exit can be found. Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9. Of course, we just assumed that there was only one. After all, why would there be more than one? Oh man. Jeez.
Junpei was stunned. Zero's trick had taken him completely by surprise. There were 2 doors. That meant that all 9 people who had met at the central staircase could escape and leave no one behind. Now the reason for the bracelet number being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 was clear. Divided into the digital root for both teams would be 9. For instance, 1, 2, 7, 8, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 9. The digital root for both teams would be 9. Or 2, 3, 4, 9, and 15, 6, 7, 8. The digital root would also be 9. There were many other workable combinations, but they all ended the same way, with a digital root of 9. What did that mean? The answer was quite simple. From the very beginning, the Nonary game was designed to save all 9 people. Zero hadn't been lying. Zero had never said there was only one door. But anyone who'd found themselves in the game would have assumed that that was the case. Fights would have broken out. One team would likely betray or deceive the other. Someone might be hurt. Someone might be killed. But eventually they would reach the room. Junpei now found himself in and realized the pointlessness of whatever violence they'd visited upon each other. There were 2 doors. No need to kill each other. They'd understand and be appalled, overwhelmed with guilt at what they'd done. Perhaps that was the purpose of the game. That was how the Nonary game was meant to be played. Fortunately, they hadn't started to fight one another, at least not yet. But if one misstep was made, if the wrong mistakes happened, the stakes would rise and the noose would tighten. The thought of it sent a chill down his spine. So, what are we going to do, Junpei? A voice broke through Junpei's frantic thoughts. Santa's voice. It brought Junpei back to his senses. No use worrying about the future. He needed to figure out what they were going to do next. A voice broke through... Oh, so what are we going to do, Junpei? There were 4 people in the room. Ace, Santa, Junpei, and June. Their bracelet numbers were 1, 3, 5, and 6. The digital root would be 6. In other words, the 4 of them couldn't open a door with the number 9. But what if there were only 3? Could door 9 be opened with 3 of them? It took him no time at all to determine the answer. There was only one combination of 3 people that would give a digital root of 9. 1 plus 3 plus 5 is 9. So June wouldn't be able to go? That would mean... No! We gotta go back! That wasn't a possibility he was willing to consider. Santa and Ace agreed.
Yup, I agree. We cannot leave June behind.
Junpei let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding.
Are you sure? I don't mind staying.
June's body betrayed her true feelings. Her eyes were wet with the beginnings of tears and her legs shook.
It's okay. There's no way we'd leave you behind.
Santa had said what Junpei had known the moment he realized which 3 people could go through the door. Besides, I'd rather drown in the ocean than escape with this sausage fest. Maybe I'll get to go to Atlanta.
Ah, are you sure you don't mean Atlantis?
Oh, right. Wow, Junpei. Perhaps it was the sudden reassurance that no one wanted to leave June behind, but Junpei laughed harder than he had in some time. Santa and Ace smiled.
You guys...
June blinked tears from her eyes and bit her lip. She didn't seem to know what else to say.
Very well. Best we head back to C deck then. We should be able to take the elevator we passed earlier. Perhaps Clover 7 and Lotus will have returned from door 1.
Even as Ace spoke, they knew finding the others wouldn't improve the situation. There was no way they could be split into teams that could both go through the doors. Ace knew it. They all knew it. But there was nothing else they could do. They would find the other 3 and search for another solution.
Alright, let's go.
Ace looked at all 3 of them, then turned and headed through the door. Santa and June followed. Junpei started toward the door, then stopped. He'd been too busy with other concerns to notice the room itself. It didn't seem terribly important now, but what exactly was it? Junpei looked around the room for the first time, noticing the things that weren't doors with 9 on them. A red carpet ran between 2 columns of wooden benches that ran the length of the room. The carpet began at the large set of double doors and ran toward the bow towards... Junpei wasn't sure. What is it, an altar perhaps? There was a small rectangular alcove at the end of the carpet, and inside the alcove was a raised platform. Resting on top of the platform was a coffin. A coffin? A coffin? What on earth was a coffin doing in a place like that? But before Junpei had time to answer that question... Hey Junpei! The hell are you doing? Let's move. Santa's voice echoed in from the hall outside. Right, okay. I'll be right there. Junpei turned on his heel and left the quiet, somber room. What? What the what? Who the hell's in that coffin? But, hey. They took the elevator up to C deck. Once there, they headed back toward the main hall in the central staircase. It didn't take them long. Junpei found Seven and Lotus waiting for them. They didn't look happy. Seven and Lotus? Where's Clover? We've got a problem.
Clover's gone.
Junpei and his 3 companions looked at one another. He turned back to Seven and Lotus. This might explain who's banging on the coffin. What do you mean, gone? Santa, Ace, and June had their own questions to ask. When? Why? You 2 went into door 1 with Clover, didn't you? Seven and Lotus responded as best they could. Yeah, we went through the door together.
But Clover barely spoke to us.
She just did her own thing the whole time.
There were 4 rooms on the other side of the door 1. She wouldn't let us into the 4th room. She just said, I'll take care of this one. And shut the door. She must have blocked it with something on the other side.
We waited for a while, but Clover didn't come out. We called for her, but she didn't answer. So I kicked down the door and we went into the room.
But...
it was empty.
Clover wasn't there.
There was a door on the other wall.
And it was open.
We figured she opened the door and left by herself.
We ran after her, of course, but...
well, obviously we didn't find her. You figured that much out.
Clover's gone.
Junpei thought for a moment.
When did this happen?
We got here just before you.
You certainly have excellent timing. So you haven't searched anywhere other than near the staircase?
No, we haven't. Finally, Ace spoke. His voice had an edge of resolve and concern. Very well then. We'd best separate and look for Clover. We haven't much time left. Let's begin. There were quick nods all around, and the 6 remaining players spread out. Junpei and June ran into the central hospital room and looked around. She's not here.
No, she isn't.
They searched a little longer, but with no luck. They couldn't find Clover. Finally, they gave up and left the central hospital room. Slowly, they made their way back into the hallway. At last, they reached the stairs, and Junpei spoke. Alright, I'm thinking we should probably split up. I'll head back to the stairs and take the elevator down to E deck. June, you can take the stairs up to B deck.
Alright, that sounds good. But, could you stop calling me by that code name when we're alone?
Huh? Oh, sure, right. I'll do that. There was a reason Junpei persisted on calling her June even when they were alone. Although perhaps not the best reason. He was embarrassed to call her by the nickname he'd used when they were children. Canny. 9 years ago it came naturally. After all, they were children. But now that they were adults, it felt strange. Regardless of what he might hope for, to call a woman he wasn't dating by such a childish nickname felt odd to him. course, to call her Miss Kurashiki would be even more awkward, and simply Kurashiki would seem a little brusque. And although he couldn't put his finger on why it felt somewhat forward to call her Akane when they hadn't seen one another for so long. In short, it was simply easier for him to call her June and leave it at that.
Alright, I'm going then.
Yeah, be careful, Canny. June, or perhaps more appropriately, Canny, blushed and smiled.
You be careful too, Jumpy.
Yeah, got it. Take care. Junpei looked after her for a moment as she ran up the stairs, then turned around and took off for the hallway. Tragedy always strikes when one least expects it, but to wait for a man to stand before striking him down seems almost crueler than dealing the fatal blow while he lies on the ground. A light in a dark place. June's smile had given him hope, both for escape and possibly for something else. It was that hope that raised his spirits, just enough that they might soon be fully dashed. Oh no. He opened the elevator door, and there she was. A woman sat slouched against the wall. Lotus. Junpei felt his blood turn to ice. No! Her body was limp and her skin smooth and pale as always. No! Was covered in bright red blood. Junpei felt his chest constrict. He couldn't breathe and his legs began to shake. A slow, cold drop of sweat trickled down his back. He felt his stomach somersault. Junpei's mind went blank. All his thoughts were replaced with endless hissing white. Driven by little more than instinct, he began to walk toward Lotus slowly. Each slow movement of his stiff limbs brought him closer to her corpse. Finally, he stood next to her. Robotically, he bent down and put his hand against her neck. There was no pulse. No rise and fall of breathing. She was slightly warm. Something somewhere in Junpei's shaken mind told him that meant she had been killed recently. Yes, Junpei thought, his mind slowly returning. She had been killed. Someone had killed her. There was a deep cut on the left side of her chest. Blood still oozed from it, although clearly her heart had stopped beating some time ago. The weapon had been a knife then? Perhaps she had been stabbed in the heart once. She would have died immediately. He took little comfort from knowing she must have suffered very little. Only then did Junpei notice. Lotus's bracelet was gone. Lastly, let us discuss how to remove the bracelets. There are only two ways to do so. One, you escape from the ship. Two, your heart rate reaches 0. In other words, once the bracelet is taken outside the confines of the ship or detects that its wearer's heartbeat has fallen to 0, it will shut down automatically. Was that why the killer had ended Lotus's life? So that they might have the number 8 bracelet? If that was true, then the killer was whoever wanted the number 8 bracelet. Or perhaps more accurately, the person who would gain the most by obtaining bracelet number 8. Who is that? Who would benefit the most from the number 8 bracelet? The thought had only just entered Junpei's mind when... No! Am I dead? He heard a noise. A sound like a sharp knife cutting through wet meat. It struck him as strange that the noise came from inside his own body. A moment later, the pain hit him. It wasn't merely pain. There was heat. Extreme heat as well. He felt as though molten iron had been splashed against the side of his body. Finally, his brain made the connection. He had been stabbed. But where? His body was quickly going numb. He couldn't tell where the knife had met his flesh. Given the circumstances, however, he had most likely been stabbed in the back. Whoever had killed Lotus has now done the same to Junpei as well. His voice was little more than a weak groan. With what little strength he had left, Junpei turned his body, trying to catch a glimpse of his attacker. But as he did, the knife dug itself in deeper, twisting viciously.
collapsed to the floor, a puppet with its strings cut. His arms and legs lay where they felt oddly twisted and awkwardly positioned. Junpei's body was entirely numb. He could feel the blood leaking out of him, but nothing would move, nothing save his eyes. As he lay on the floor, his life ebbing away, Junpei finally saw his attacker. 2 tiny images of the killer reflected in his eyes. With that recognition came nothing. He felt no emotions, not anger, not sadness, not regret. The paralysis that had claimed his body had reached his mind. His killer glanced down at his body.
Damn.
Then without a word, climbed into the elevator and was gone. His eyesight began to fade. The world grew blurry and began to dissolve into an empty white fog. The fog crept into the edges of his mind and worked inexorably inward. Soon it swallowed up the last that remained of Junpei's mind, and his consciousness left him. There was nothing more. Into utter emptiness he fell. Into zero. Whatever Junpei had been was gone.
So is that it? Was this like the death ending? Yeah, bad end. Aww. Damn it.
You reached one ending. This game has multiple endings. In order to experiment, once you've saved, you can restart the game with information you've acquired in this playthrough. Press the right on the control pad to fast forward through lines you've already read.
Alright. So, yeah, I'm aiming for the true ending, so we're gonna try and get it. Yeah. I'm gonna skip ahead a lot of stuff, though, since it's pretty much gonna be the same thing. Begin with memories. Is this what we hit? We will start from the beginning of the game with information from previous playthroughs. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna do a little things differently. I need to get the safe ending in order to get the true ending. So I do have a guide up. I'm gonna say that now. I have a guide up because I don't remember how to get the safe ending. It's super hard to figure out. This game has so many twists and turns. Side note, for the second game and for the Virtue's Last Reward, I'm not sure if I'm gonna get the true endings on those. I feel like though I need a satisfying ending. If I don't get it like a satisfying ending, my first playthrough of it, I'll aim for a better one. But we'll see. But yeah, I need to figure out how to get the safe ending. Yes.
Alright guys, welcome back. So let me fill you in on what changed pretty much. Basically, we learned a little bit more facts. To get this ending, you have to go through specific doors. Basically, you need to go through the number 5 door, the number 8 door, and the number 6 door. In the number 5 door, I believe, which is the first class cabin, you need to have checked a safe twice. There's a safe in that room that you have to go to, and you have to click on it twice. You get 2 different scenes with Snake and 7, where they talk about the safe pretty much. That's it. That is the only pivotal thing to get this to unlock for a safe ending. And we didn't learn many other facts. We learned that Ace apparently owns a pharmaceutical company. That drug that he took in the one ending, his company kind of manufactures it, apparently, and he possibly might have some sort of disease or that is causing him to lose who's who in this in our group. Like for instance, like 7 could look like Lotus to him or something like that, like weird, like he's got some weird thing there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, we also learned that Santa told us a little bit about his sister. She died 9 years ago. He used to dress up as Santa and give her gifts until one day she wrote a letter and he read it saying that the only thing that she wants for Christmas
is for them to be happy forever, and Santa was really depressed that he couldn't fulfill that, and then she died and all that stuff. But yeah, that's it. So now we're looking for Clover, who's missing. We need, and Junpei said we need to check the showers.
That's where her brother is. She might have gone to see him.
June bit her lip. She knew, as Junpei did, that there was only one thing to see in the shower room, and it wasn't pleasant.
Well, we might as well check, right? Let's go.
There was a screwdriver stuck between the door and the frame. Junpei and June slipped through the door, moved down the hallway, and stepped into the shower room. So this is already immediately different from what happened.
No luck. Yeah, I don't think she's here.
June's voice was faint, and she placed her hands over her mouth. Her face looked a little green. The stench in the room was almost unbearable.
It had grown far more unpleasant since their last visit. If Junpei had eaten a lunch, he would have had difficulty retaining it. He wanted to leave the room as soon as possible, but he had to be sure. And the only way to be sure was to check the other side of the divider. Wait here. June offered no resistance and nodded weakly to Junpei as he headed around the divider. He stopped at the corner and turned his head. As he'd expected, Clover was nowhere to be seen. The only thing on the other side of the divider was a dead body lying in a reddish-brown puddle of dry and rotting blood. There are many ways a man can die, but this, the skull was shattered in the head, little more than a pulpy mass of brain, bone, and viscera. The left arm was hideously twisted into a horrific alien shape, the bright white of the ulna shining through the remains of skin and muscle. Huh? Wait. Bright white. Ulna. Bones. Oh. The pieces fell into place. Junpei remembered something Clover had told him in the laboratory.
She did tell us this. Apparently in the laboratory mission, like part where you had, with the robot and all that stuff, her brother does not have an arm. He has a prosthetic arm, I believe, is what she told us.
My brother's left arm is, it's not like a normal person's arm. The accident hurt him really bad. To save him, they had to cut off his arm.
Yeah, he's got a fake arm.
Of course. Of course! Why hadn't he realized it earlier? Clover had told Junpei that Snake's left arm was prosthetic. But the left arm on the corpse behind the divider was quite clearly a real human arm. Or at least it had been once. That meant the corpse.
It wasn't Snake. Junpei and June headed back toward the large hospital room. They stepped through the door and cut off the shower room. Down the hallway, they went searching for Clover in every corner. They had reached the stairs when Seven appeared, breathless and yelling.
Junpei, June, where were you guys? He looked pale and his face was drawn. Something terrible had happened. Junpei's breath caught it in his throat. Did something happen? Seven drew a shaking hand across his face and gulped down a breath of air. Clover is dead. I found her in the first-class bathroom.
So this is the first class room that I skipped it out. You didn't really miss much, really. It was just another puzzle.
All sound ceased for Junpei. The world was an empty, muffled expanse. Then he began to hear his own breathing.
Oh, no.
June's mouth moved, but he heard nothing. She tried once more, and then her energy was gone, and she collapsed against the wall. He could have helped her, but he hadn't, and now she was dead. So he stood there, frozen in place. Clover, why? Why had this happened? He forced his body to move. Each step felt like another nail pounded into his heart.
Give me a second here, guys. Okay, sorry about that.
He forced his body to move. Each step felt like another nail pounded into his heart. Finally, he was in front of her. He knelt and placed three fingers against Clover's neck. No pulse, no breath. But she was still warm and her eyes were closed. Peacefully. It would have been easy to think she was asleep.
Easy, that is, were it not for the slowly expanding puddle of blood beneath her. He traced its source to her back, a gash just beneath her shoulder blade. Was the weapon a knife, perhaps? If it was a knife, the killer had taken it when they left. When he closed his eyes, he saw Clover smile, her innocent smile, her energy. He would never see her smile again. He could have done something. He could have helped her. His stomach twisted itself into a sickening knot. Junpei lifted a limp June from the floor and carried her from the bathroom.
Damn.
Are you alright? It was a foolish question, and he knew it. Yes, I think so. Her voice was weak. The fever had gone down, but the emotional scars she'd received were not likely to recede as quickly. Junpei laid his hand on her shoulder, and they walked back to the bedroom. You should get some rest. He lowered June until she was sitting against the bed. She nodded once and stared at the floor. There were 4 others in the room. Ace, Lotus, Santa, and Seven. They all stared at nothing, their faces drawn and tired. After a while, they drifted into the bathroom to see Clover's corpse themselves. Once everyone was back in the bedroom, Junpei walked slowly to the center of it and looked around as the slumped figures gathered there. Who was the first to find the body?
Me.
Seven spoke from behind. Junpei turned around. Seven's hand was up. Why'd you come to this room?
To look for Clover. Why else? I found her body in the bathroom. As soon as I did, I ran outside. I got to the top of the stairs by the casino and yelled as loud as I could. Hey guys, I found her, but it's bad. She's in the bathroom in the first-class cabin. Come quick! Or something like that. Then I went back to the bathroom. Ace, Santa, and Lotus showed up real soon after that. But I guess you two hadn't heard me or something, because you didn't show. So I took off down the stairs to look for you. After that, I mean, you know the rest, right?
Junpei nodded and closed his eyes. There was one more thing he needed to ask. Seven, there's one more thing I'm worried about.
What's that?
When we finished all the puzzles in this room and got the door open, you stuck one of those plates in between the door and the frame, right? Why'd you do that?
Come on, didn't I already tell you that? I did it so that the door wouldn't lock. So we could come back to this room. Oh, you think I did it?
Well, I don't know. That kind of depends on what you say, doesn't it? Seven sighed and shook his head.
Follow me.
There were 2 doors standing next to one another. He opened the one on the right. Behind the door was a closet.
Yeah, that's the safe that you have to talk to twice.
Seven stepped inside. He stood in front of one of the shelves that filled it and gestured toward a small box. The box was a small metal cube. He looked at Junpei.
This is the reason. This safe. We couldn't open it when we were getting through this room. I figured there might be something pretty important in it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Besides, I figured eventually we might figure out what the numbers are for the safe. And if we did, I didn't want to screw around with door 5 again. So I put that plate in the exit door so we could get back in that way. You get it now?
Junpei nodded and looked at the safe. He grabbed the handle and shook it. Nothing happened. It was as locked as it had been when Seven found it. There was one change, however. Just underneath the safe was a pile of fine reddish-brown powder. Rust. Junpei stared at it for a moment. Had someone opened the safe, dislodging the rust? Junpei left the closet. Seven followed him back to the bedroom. It was cold and quiet. No one spoke. They sat frozen in place by shock and grief and fatigue. The room felt tiny and oppressive, and the thick metallic smell of blood filled the room. Junpei turned and headed for the living room. Anything to get out of there. Was there some other clue, perhaps? Anything that might lead him to whoever had stabbed Clover? He took his time and examined the room carefully. His eyes caught on the door. The door that led to the passageway of door number 5. Behind that door was the dead body of the 9th man. Maybe I should have another look at it, just in case. Quietly, he pushed open the door. The smell hit him like a blow to the face. His lungs contracted, unwilling to inhale such fetid air. Acid boiled up from the base of his stomach, churning what little food was there into a violent froth. It was too much for him, and he vomited a thin stream of yellow water, and bile spattered onto the floor. Ew. He wiped his mouth weakly and stared at the dead body. Chunks of torn flesh lay in an arc around the body. What remained of its intestines had slid out onto the floor. The pool of blood that framed it was half dry, but so thick that it had taken on a texture not unlike that of an egg yolk prepared sunny side up. On the floor next to the broken mass of the man's head lay his glasses, cracks spidering across the lenses. The bloodstains near them had already dried like scabs on the floor. That was when he noticed. It's gone. His bracelet. It's gone. It had been there when Junpei had gone through door 5 before. He was sure of it. Right next to the glasses. But now... it was gone.
Yeah, so if you go through door 5, which is in the beginning, which is where this guy blows up at, the bracelet is there. But now it's gone.
It was gone. The number 9 bracelet was gone. But why? Had someone taken it? He was turning it over and over in his mind when he heard Seven's voice.
Huh? Where'd Junpei go?
It had drifted out to him from the living room. Junpei walked slowly out of the hallway.
Oh, there you are. Were you looking for something in the hallway? Seven looked up as Junpei entered the room. Did you find something?
He thought for a moment before he responded. No, nothing. Technically, it wasn't a lie. He hadn't found anything in a way. In fact, that was the problem. Give me a second here, guys. That was the problem. Something he'd expected to find hadn't been there. The 9th man's bracelet. What's up? What's up?
Well, I wanted you to take a look at something.
What is it? Seven led Junpei back to the bathroom. As Clover's corpse came into view, he felt his heart flip and then fall to the bottom of his stomach. Something between a sigh and a groan escaped his lips. What was it you wanted to show me? His voice was hollow and empty.
I searched Clover's body again. I found this.
As he spoke, he moved around Clover's head, then knelt down and flipped open her right hand. What? She was holding a piece of paper.
I haven't actually looked at it yet. Didn't want to disturb the crime scene, you know? Basic stuff. Well, I did borrow one thing.
He wasn't sure what that meant, but it likely didn't matter. The paper was more important. He picked it up and carefully opened it. There were 2 sentences written on it. Truth had gone, truth had gone, and truth had gone. Now truth is asleep in the darkness of the sinister hand. What is this?
Some kind of secret code?
Seven peered over Junpei's shoulder at the note. Junpei stepped away from Clover's body and into the living room. He began to pace, attempting to decode the note. The first clue was likely the phrase, sinister hand. Sinister hand means...
Sinister hand? I don't know what that means. The right hand?
No, that wasn't right. In heraldry, the term sinister was used to refer to the left side of a coat of arms. Or more accurately, it referred to things on the left side of a bearer of a coat of arms. The left hand. The left hand. What did the left hand mean? Junpei looked at his own left arm. At the bracelet on his wrist. Did the darkness of the sinister hand have something to do with the bracelet? He examined the bracelet closely. There were 2 protrusions on either side of the face. The left and right sides of the face. Left and right. Left and right. Right and left. Truth is gone. Truth. Gone. It sounded funny. What did it mean? Truth. Gone. Maybe those 2 words. How about reading them backwards? Gone and truth. Enog and Herturt. They weren't even words. Junpei doubted they had anything to do with the riddle. It was a good try, though. Truth. Gone. Those 2 words.
How about switching them? Switching them, maybe?
Gone had truth. It made no more sense than the initial riddle, less even. Clearly switching the words wasn't going to help. Time for a different idea. How about... what else could they mean? What else could... Truth, of course, meant something that was correct, something that was fact. In other words, something that was right. It would follow, then, that gone meant left. After all, after someone left, they were gone. In this case, however, they clearly referred to their directional homonyms. So that means truth equal right, gone, left. That seemed to make sense. Junpei looked at the bracelet again. At the two protrusions on the left and right of the face, Junpei pressed them in the following order. What the frick? I don't know. Do the first one. Right, right, right. Left, left, left. No, that was wrong. What had it been thinking? Truth had gone, and truth had gone. So truth... so it's right, left, right, left, right, left. Right, left, right, left, right, left. This one, I think. And then... the hell? One after another, 8 numbers flashed on them off of the face of the Junpei's bracelet. He checked one more time to be sure. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. Huh? Hey, what are those numbers? Junpei didn't answer. He couldn't answer. He had no idea what they were either. Besides, he was sure he would forget the numbers in the order they came in if he said anything. The numbers to the safe. 14383421. I need to write this down because I'm going to forget it and they probably want me to put it in. 14383421. Alright. Muttering the numbers to himself over and over, Junpei headed toward the bedroom. It's the numbers to the safe. To get that open... Before long, he found himself in front of the safe again. Its lock was the only device he could think of that required a sequence of numbers such as the ones he just discovered. Besides, someone had opened the safe at least once already. Had Clover come to the bedroom to open it? 14383421. Junpei slowly dialed in the numbers. 1 to the right. 4 to the left. 3 to the right. 8 to the left. 3 to the right. 4 to the left. 2 to the right. 1 to the left. Finished. Junpei heard the small telltale sound of a lock opening. He grabbed the handle, took a deep breath, and pulled it up. Inside was a piece of paper. It was roughly the same size as the one Clover had been holding. Junpei picked it up. This is what it said. Fact 1. The nonary game was played once before, 9 years ago. Fact 2. The person with the number 2 bracelet attended the game 9 years ago. Fact 3. Number 2 bracelet? It was planned by the following 4 people. Cradle Pharmaceutical CEO Gentaro Hungo. That's number 1, Ace. Cradle Pharmaceutical Chief of Staff Nagisa Nijisaki. Cradle Pharmaceutical R&D Supervisor Teruaki Kubota. Majority shareholder in Cradle Pharmaceutical Kagechika Musashido. I must punish them for the innocent lives they sacrificed. This is the only warning they will receive. That innocent souls might be saved. I now state the truth. 0. Damn. Junpei left the closet. There were 5 people waiting for him in the bedroom. Ace, Lotus, Santa, 7, and June. He looked at each one of them in turn, then slowly placed his hands in the pockets of his vest. Sorry, but do you think you could all come with me? Come with you? I want all of you to go to the big hospital room. Why? Why? There's something I want to be sure of. What do you want to be sure of? I want to know if the person I suspect is really the culprit.
Wait, then you're saying...
Yeah, I think I've got it figured out. I know who killed Snake and Clover. The atmosphere in the room changed. Grief was suddenly gone, replaced by attention like a strap of leather stretched to its limit. 5 sets of eyes stared at Junpei. He pretended not to notice. Anyway, if you could all please move to the big hospital room. I'll explain everything as soon as we get there. Then almost as if on cue, the bell began to ring. They all heard it. It was the bell from the clock in the main staircase. The bell rang 5 times, then ceased. It was 5 o'clock. They had only an hour left. We don't have a lot of time left. Let's go. Slowly, one by one, they followed Junpei out of the bedroom. It has to be Ace then, right? Because he was the leader of the pharmaceutical. I don't know anything about the other ones. Actually, before we get started, I was hoping you could do something for me. Junpei stopped in front of door 3 and turned around. Ace, 7, and Lotus, could you please place your palms on the red?
Huh?
Why? If we need to get to the shower room, why don't we just... No, we're not going inside. Once you've authenticated, step away from the door.
Why?
Please, just do it. Or perhaps you don't want to know who killed Snake and Clover? Junpei's implication was clear, and 7 understood him perfectly.
Fine.
What about you, Ace? Lotus?
Very well.
Sure. Quickly, they pressed their palms into the red. Once they had finished, they stepped away from the door as Junpei had instructed. 3 asters shone from the red's display panel. Junpei approached it and held his bracelet over the scanner. He made quite sure he didn't place his palm on it, and instead only brought his bracelet near it. The 4th asterisk appeared. Just as Junpei had expected, it was possible to authenticate without placing one's palm on the red, so long as the bracelet was brought near it. Junpei pulled the lever down.
Damn. So someone could have maybe did those number things. Show the bracelet to it. Maybe it'll work that way? Is that what he's thinking?
Door 3 opened like a hungry mouth. 9 long seconds passed. And the door shut. Unfed?
Yeah, unfed.
Junpei walked slowly back to the others who were waiting some distance from the door, talking to one another. Santa and June had joined them as well. It looked as though they hadn't found the chance to break into the conversation yet. As Junpei approached, they turned to look at him, curiosity playing on their faces. Before long, the other 3 did as well. Clearly, they were all expecting some answers. Thanks. I appreciate your cooperation. Clearly, they'd hoped for something more forthcoming. He continued. By the way, Ace, would you mind if I asked you something?
What is it?
Do you know who I am?
What? What kind of question?
Just answer it, please. Who am I?
You're Junpei. Of course, who else would you be?
Unfortunately, that's the wrong answer. Actually, I'm Santa.
What?
What?
Ace's voice was full of surprise, but it was also tinged with confusion and fear. Everyone else looked nearly as surprised. Oh yeah, because he has that... I said earlier, he has that disease where he can't distinguish people. Santa looked especially shocked to discover he was actually someone else. If he spoke, however, the trap would be exposed. Junpei quickly continued. The clothes I'm wearing I borrowed from Junpei, and the clothes he's wearing are mine. We had a little swap.
That's ridiculous. Impossible.
So you're saying I'm not Santa?
Of course you aren't.
Why? What makes you so sure I'm not Santa?
If you were Santa, then door 3 wouldn't have opened for us just now. 1 plus 7 plus 8 plus 3 equal 19. 1 plus 9 would be 10. The digital root would be 1. But the 4 of us just opened the door. You can't possibly be Santa. Your bracelet number isn't 3.
It's 5, right? Only then, when it was too late, did Ace realize his mistake. He set his jaw and glared at Junpei. You're exactly right. My bracelet number is 5. As he spoke, Junpei lifted his wrist up to show everyone the bright red 5 on his wrist. Sorry, Ace. I tricked you. Of course I'm not really Santa. I'm Junpei. Who could possibly think I was? It's obvious I'm not. To think I was ridiculous. But I guess you couldn't see just how obvious it was.
I asked you before, didn't I? What makes you so sure I'm not Santa? And you answered. If you were Santa, then door 3 wouldn't have opened for us just now. Most people wouldn't say something like that. As their justification for why I'm not Santa, I mean, the first thing that would come to anyone else's mind wouldn't be the bracelet number. There'd only be one thing they'd say. One sentence. You don't have his face. Ace, you have I can't say the word. Prospagnosia. Am I right? Junpei's voice was quiet and calm. He knew the truth, so did Ace. He could hear a sudden buzz of conversation from the others. Prospagnosia? What's that? He heard Lotus begin to explain it to them. Ace glanced at them, then turned back toward Junpei and sighed.
Very well. I confess. I have prospagnosia. I cannot differentiate human faces. Is that what this was about? You want to mock me for my disorder?
No, not at all. I'm not making fun of you at all. In fact, I feel kind of bad for you. No, the reason I brought this up is that there's an excellent chance the person who killed Snake has prospagnosia. Ace's face tightened, his eyes narrowed.
What do you mean?
Junpei leaned casually against the iron piping of one of the beds. I'll just come right out with it. I think it was you, Ace. You killed him. Junpei was suddenly very aware of 5 pairs of eyes on him. He had their undivided attention now. The room had grown very, very quiet. Junpei took a deep breath.
That's ridiculous. What possible evidence do you...
I have 3 pieces of evidence. The first, think back to a few hours ago. You made us argue over the 3 doors here in the big hospital room. There was no way all 7 people could go through them. Lotus suggested that we sacrifice one of us. Lotus looked away awkwardly. Junpei glanced at her and continued. Then you, Ace said. I'll stay here. Why would you say something like that? It's pretty simple, really. You didn't want us to see the dead body in the shower room. You see, if Ace stayed behind, there were only 2 doors the rest of us could go through. Doors 7 and 8. There was no way we could get through door 3, the shower room. You knew that, didn't you, Ace? That's why you volunteered to stay behind.
Come on now, I think that's going a bit far. I can understand if you're jealous of my bravery, but please don't devalue my actions. I only wanted to save the rest of you. Surely you can understand my altruism.
Altruism, huh? Junpei stared off into the darkness at something very interesting and lazily began to dig a persistent bit of wax out of his ear. You already knew, didn't you? You knew that whichever doors we took eventually, we'd end up back in the big hospital room.
What on earth are you saying? Of course I didn't know that. How could I have?
Really?
Yes, yes.
Pleading was not something they'd heard from Ace before. Junpei pulled the piece of wax from his ear, glanced at it, and flicked it off into the darkness. Ah, well, that's cool. I've still got 2 more pieces of evidence that say you're the killer. The second is that, as I said earlier, you have prospagnosia.
Then you mean to imply that a person who can't distinguish human faces must be a bad person? Junpei, they call that prejudice.
No, I'm not that stupid.
Then why?
Well, before I explain, I suppose there's something I should tell you. The corpse in the shower room. It's not Snake.
What?
Ace's face went pale. The others looked confused as well. If the body wasn't Snake's... I didn't put it together right away, but there was something Clover told me. She said that Snake's left arm was prosthetic. He'd lost his real arm in an accident. But the body we saw in the shower room, let's call him Guy X. Guy X's left arm was definitely flesh and blood. In other words, Guy X couldn't possibly have been Snake.
Oh God, no, that's impossible.
Ace had started muttering deliriously to himself, shaking his head back and forth. Junpei was long past caring. Let's say, hypothetically, that the killer didn't have prospagnosia. If that were the case, he would immediately realize that Guy X wasn't Snake. Even if the clothes were the same as Snake's, their faces would be completely different. It would have been obvious. They were different people, and yet they still killed him. Why? Why would they kill a stranger who'd only just shown up? On the other hand, if the killer did have prospagnosia, it makes sense. They thought Guy X was Snake and killed him.
Wait just a moment. Let's just say you're right and I mistook Guy X for Snake. Even if I did, I would have had no motive to kill him. Why would I want to kill Snake?
I can think of at least 2 motives. 1, Snake knew about your past. If he ever revealed what he knew, that would have been really bad for you. You really didn't want that to happen. So to make sure Snake's mouth stayed shut, you killed him. 2, Snake had a grudge against you. You knew that, or at least you could have easily assumed he did. Even without exposing your identity, he was a threat to you. You never knew when you might be attacked. You couldn't ever let your guard down. Every moment was a moment he might try something. You didn't want that kind of danger hanging over you, so you...
Hey, hold on a minute.
For the first time since the beginning of Junpei's explanation, someone besides Ace spoke.
What's the past that Ace wouldn't want us to know? Why did Snake have a grudge against him?
Look at this. He handed Santa a small piece of paper. Santa squinted at the paper and began to read.
The nonary game was played once before 9 years ago. The person with the number 2 bracelet attended the game 9 years ago. It was planned by the following 4 people. Cradle Pharmaceutical CEO Gentaro Hongo.
What is this? Slowly, Santa looked up from the paper. His eyes met Junpei's. It's the message from Zero. It was in the safe in the first-class cabin. Then suddenly...
Give me a break! Ace's face was red and shaking, and his voice was full of fury, tinged with desperation. Sorry guys, I was just checking something out. I'm curious about something real quick. Hold on. I want to see something real quick. Okay, I was just making sure about something. That paper is a lie. Someone is trying to frame me.
Me. You said me, right? Junpei's eyes narrowed and the trap began to close. Ace inhaled sharply, his eyes flicked off of Junpei to something anything else. Wouldn't that mean that you're admitting you're Hongo, the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical? Or am I mistaken? It was as though a switch had been flipped. The color drained from Ace's face, and as he realized what he'd done, his eyes went wide.
Very well, I admit that much. I'm certainly the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical, Gentaro Hongo. So what if I am? I don't know anything about this nonary game that supposedly took place 9 years ago. Everything on that scrap of paper is bullshit. Someone is trying to set me up, you see. First of all,
Ace stammered as he tried desperately to work himself to a more tenable position.
Junpei, you're claiming I did all this by myself. Think that over, alright? How could I have killed Snake all by myself?
Not Snake. It was Guy X.
I don't care who it was. You said the killer put this other man into door 3, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Then I couldn't have possibly done that alone. I couldn't have opened the door 3 with only myself and Guy X.
Nope, you could have.
What?
Ace's face was tight and his teeth were clenched. Junpei fixed him with a level stare. The trap was about to close. Actually, Ace, when you were unconscious, I took something from you. Remember when you were injected with that anesthetic and fell asleep in the big hospital room? Yeah, back then. I took this. Junpei put his hand into his pocket.
No, you couldn't have.
Ace's right hand moved. Junpei smiled. I got you, Ace. Your right hand there tells me all I need to know. You want to tell me what you were so worried about? What's in your pocket? It's the number 9 bracelet, isn't it? Ace, Guy X, and the 9th man's bracelet. That was all you needed to open door 3. 1 plus 2 plus 9 is 12. 1 plus 2 is 3.
That's how you killed Guy X all by yourself, Ace. All you needed was the number 9 bracelet in your chest pocket. Ace lowered his hand from where it had stopped, halfway to his pocket. He looked down at the floor, his face hidden from Junpei. All he could see was the corner of Ace's mouth twitching like a dying fish. If you want to play innocent, that's fine by me. Go ahead, tell me I don't have the bracelet, if that's what you want to do. But if you could take off your coat and hand it to me, I'd really appreciate it. Otherwise, we'll have to take it from you by force. Right, Seven?
Yeah, it'd be my pleasure.
Seven cracked his knuckles with a sound like gunfire. Ace roared with laughter. He threw his arms wide and his head back and laughed, filling the room with a sound that scarcely belonged there. Then it stopped. His arms came down, and his head dropped to look straight ahead at Junpei. Look at that evil face! His face was flat and cold, devoid of any emotion.
Well done, Junpei. As you so correctly deducted, I have the number 9 bracelet. I retrieved it while you were searching for the missing hardware for the Red. I left the room I was supposed to search and headed to the first-class cabin on B deck.
His voice showed no emotion, no sense of remorse or interest. It was almost bored, as though he were reciting an especially dull corporate letter.
My purpose was to obtain the number 9 bracelet. 9 is a potent ally in the nonary game. Adding 9 to any set of numbers won't alter the digital root.
1 plus 9 equals 10, 1... 3, 1, 2...
As you can see, 9 is a very useful number here. With it, one can go anywhere with anyone. So I made for the first-class cabin to obtain it.
Ace successfully acquired the number 9 bracelet. He also found an unexpected bonus, the knife the 9th man had been holding. He slipped both of them into his chest pocket and left as quickly as he'd come. He walked down the stairs and headed back to where he was supposed to be. That was when he met Guy X and mistook him for Snake. Snake was on his way to the large hospital room and had not noticed Ace behind him. Ace made sure it stayed that way. He followed the man wearing Snake's clothes to door 3. When the man stopped, he walked up behind him quietly and called out, "Snake!" The man turned to look at Ace. He said nothing. No words came out of his half-open mouth. He seemed dazed somehow, almost like a man half asleep. Perhaps he had been drugged. It didn't matter to Ace. Ace was certain the man was Snake. He knew Snake had been a part of the nonary game 9 years before. Snake hadn't recognized Ace immediately, but he was blind. That much made sense. Why then hadn't Snake said anything to him? Surely he hadn't forgotten what had happened to him in the nonary game, but not once had he attempted to confront Ace. Perhaps his lack of sight had prevented him from recognizing Ace, or perhaps Snake had conspired with Zero to deceive Ace. In either event, he was a threat, and it was better to deal with him sooner rather than later. Ace's mind was made up. He moved. He held the number 9 bracelet over the Red. He waved his own bracelet in front of the Red and finally grabbed Snake's arm and shoved his hand against the scanner panel. The door opened. Ace threw the man through it. 9 seconds later, the door shut. "81 seconds passed. The man inside the door passed away.
After that, I returned to my post as though nothing had happened. After conducting my own search, I returned to the large hospital room when the 1 a.m. bell rang.
Ace's eyes were cold, and his cheeks were hollow and pallid. When he spoke, only his lips and tongue moved. The rest of his face was eerily still. Junpei glared at Ace. He took a deep breath and thought about the next question he had to ask. He knew what the answer would be. He just didn't want to hear it. Junpei swallowed, then spoke. "Ace, did you kill Clover?"
"Yes."
"Why? Why did you kill her?"
"She was Snake's sister. It was possible he had told her something dangerous. Additionally, she had gone through door 1. It seemed likely she might have found it."
"Found what?"
Why don't you go through door 1 yourself? Perhaps it's hidden somewhere.
Seven and Lotus interrupted.
Yeah, but Lotus and I went through door 1 too.
We didn't see anything suspicious.
Yes, I thought as much after I heard your report at the central stairs. I doubt the two of you could find it. But perhaps Clover was different. Perhaps she had found it. I was, therefore, desperate to find her, and at last I did in the first-class cabin. I spoke very calmly. Did you see it?
See what?
Don't act as if you don't understand. You were in the captain's quarters, weren't you?
Huh? What are you talking about?
Very well. By the way, what are you doing here, Clover?
What? Nothing.
There's blood on your shoes. Looks fresh. Did you go take a look at the 9th man's corpse? I see. Your silence suggests that you noticed you saw something, didn't you? You saw that his bracelet was gone.
Clover ran. She made for the exit, but Ace stood in her way.
You aren't going anywhere!
He caught her by the collar as she passed and threw her to the floor hard. She leapt back up and darted past him into the hallway. Ace followed at a run. Aw, that's messed up. He was faster. Aw, no. Aw, Clover. Damn it. Hopefully the true ending lets me save these people. That was how I killed Clover. His face hadn't changed. If he felt guilt or remorse or anything one might feel after taking the life of another human being, it didn't show. You son of a bitch! Seven's whole body trembled with rage and his voice rumbled with hate. Santa's eyes were bloodthirsty and Lotus and June's faces were distorted by anger and hatred. Ace looked at them and smiled. It was a cold, cruel thing with no humor in it. He shook his head and sighed. I admit it. I've lost. I've lost completely and utterly. But don't misunderstand, Junpei. I didn't lose to you. I lost to Zero, not you. I'm rather disgusted with myself for falling into such a simple trap. And it was a trap, make no mistake. I was trapped and manipulated by Zero. The man I killed in the shower room. If he wasn't Snake, then I have no idea who he was. But he was wearing Snake's clothes, and that was no coincidence. He had also been injected with something that reduced his cognition and prevented him from identifying himself or resisting me. And we can't forget the components that were removed from the red before we arrived. I have no doubt that Zero planned all of this. Zero made sure I would kill that man. It follows, of course, that Zero knew everything I would do. That I would try to take the number 9 bracelet. That I would try to kill Snake. Everything. Suddenly, Junpei remembered the paper he'd found in the safe. He remembered the last words Zero had written on it. That he would get revenge, right? And must punish them for the innocent lives they sacrificed. This is the only warning they will receive. That innocent souls might be saved. I now state the truth. Zero. And he remembered other words. Words he'd heard from Clover.
I think Zero is one of us.
One by one, Junpei looked at the 5 people standing in front of him. Ace. Santa. June. 7. Lotus. Zero is one of us. No, Junpei paused. There was one more person. Snake. Because Snake's not dead. That wasn't his body, which means he's still out there. It was clear now that the man who died in the shower room was not Snake. That meant that Snake was almost certainly still alive. Perhaps Snake was Zero. Perhaps Snake had made Guy X wear his clothes so that he would appear to be dead. Where was Snake now? Perhaps he was somewhere laughing at them. If he was Zero, surely he had lied about many other things. Was he watching them? Cruel to throw us in his vendetta, though.
Well, I believe I finished with my confession. Why don't we get moving?
He sounded as if he'd just finished doing nothing more exciting than describing the weather.
For Santa, it was the last straw. The hell is this shit? You aren't going anywhere, you son of a bitch. We're gonna leave your ass here to rot. Why? Because I killed Clover? That's ridiculous.
Why are you so upset that I killed the little bitch? She was nothing to you. A stranger you only met a few hours ago. Am I wrong? You bastard! Seven roared and lifted a fist that would likely have shattered Ace's jaw, but someone else was faster. It was Lotus. She stepped toward Ace, raised a fist of her own, and drove it straight into his nose. Huh. You've got some fire, don't you? I confess, I rather like a tough woman. He sniffed and wiped a small trickle of blood from his nose with a raised eyebrow.
Well, maybe you'd like another one then.
Before that, let me give you one of my own.
Huh?
Lotus scarcely had time to blink. Ace snaked his arm around her and pulled Lotus's back up against him. In the same motion, he reached into his coat pocket. Oh no, he stole the gun! It was a gun. The revolver. Almost lazily, he tilted it to point at Lotus's head. If any of you so much as blink, I won't hesitate to pull this trigger. I've already killed 3 people. Don't think I'm not ready to make it 4.
3 people? What do you mean?
Very well. Let me take this opportunity to illuminate you. The person who killed the 9th man was me. Although I suppose, to be more accurate, I encouraged him to get himself killed. While we were examining the main staircase, he came to me and told me his name. I recognized it at once, so I gave him a little push, just a little white lie. It seems the setting for the dead were altered. Now it only requires a single person to deactivate the detonator in the bracelet. Investigate what's beyond door 5. We'll meet again later.
Okay, have a good one, guys. I'm going off ahead now. Well then. Why isn't it stopping? You lied. It was him. La, 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 la.
I had 4 reasons for killing him. 1, as I said before the nonary game, the number 9 bracelet is of utmost importance. If I had allowed him to keep such a useful tool, he or it would have become a threat to me. As such, I decided that he should be eliminated early on. 2, I wanted the number 9 bracelet. If I could manage to obtain it, I would be able to manipulate the game as I saw fit. I would be unable to acquire the bracelet unless its owner was dead. 3, even setting aside his number, he would have been nothing but trouble for me. He was aware of my past. He knew what happened here 9 years ago. It was important that I eliminate him before he was able to disseminate this information. And 4, lastly, I wish to conduct a simple test. A test to see if this nonary game was serious or a poor attempt at a joke. I needed to be quite sure. So, he and his people did a nonary game 9 years ago, killed innocent lives, and Zero, apparently, I don't know why taken us, but has started another one to punish these people, or people like him, probably, I guess, in general, who caused this shit last time. As such, I encouraged him to act against the rules so that I might observe the outcome. Junpei glared at him. I don't get your third motive. What the hell happened 9 years ago? Didn't I say the nonary game was played? I planned it out, and I conducted its execution. Why? What on earth was it supposed to do? I don't really think I have any obligation to tell you that. Ace smirked. He was trying to provoke them, and it was working. Give me a second here, guys. Although Ace had paid very little attention to Lotus after catching her, the gun had never wavered from her temple. She looked quite pale, and when she spoke, her voice shook.
Hey, what's with this gun? Where did he get this?
Why don't you tell her, Santa? Santa ground his teeth and glared at Ace. On the other side of door 6. We found the gun in the coffin in the cargo room, right? The bastard must have grabbed it when we weren't looking. Indeed, I did. That was a pretty serious mistake, you know. Just saying you intended to leave it behind. Ace laughed a short, derisive snort and gave Junpei a sickeningly pitying look. Well, there isn't much time left. I'll be off then.
Where are you going? Do I really need to explain? I had assumed it would be obvious. I have the number 9 bracelet, and now I have Lotus. 9 plus 8, yeah, he's going through the 9 door. Wasn't there a door with a 9 on it in the room that looked like a church? That's where you're going, isn't it? And how do you know that? Santa told me about it while we were looking for Clover. I see. Well, you are correct. That is my destination, but now I must say goodbye to all of you. Ah, and please, don't forget my warning. Move and I'll pull the trigger. I don't need her alive to open the door, you know. As he spoke, Ace began backing toward the door, practically dragging Lotus behind him. Junpei, Santa, June, and Seven stood frozen. Ace had the face of a man gone mad. They had no doubt he would pull the trigger. Ace had reached the exit. He forced Lotus to open it, then turned and addressed them once more. Goodbye. Then he stepped through the door. It fell shut. In the blink of an eye, they were gone. As soon as Ace and Lotus were gone, Junpei and the others leapt for the door in pursuit of Ace, but as Junpei laid his hand on the doorknob, there was a noise behind him. He looked over his shoulder. June was kneeling on the floor, breathing heavily. Hey, June, what happened? Are you alright? Santa ran to June and wrapped his arms around her before she could collapse all the way. Jesus, you're burning up. Your fever's back. Are you okay? June's fever had returned again for no apparent reason. Her eyes were watery and her eyelids drooped. Her breath came in dry, shallow gasps. I'm okay. Really, I'm fine. You should be worrying about Lotus. She was breathing hard now, and she could barely summon the strength to talk. Junpei was torn. He couldn't leave June alone in the state she was in. But every moment they waited, Ace was farther away. Lotus's life in his hands. What was Junpei supposed to do? June's eyes drifted to Junpei's. She managed to muster a weak smile. Jumpy, don't worry about me. I just need a little rest. I'll be fine. Don't you remember? I just needed to rest a little bit last time. So please save Lotus. Think about what Ace has already done, Junpei. When he's got what he needs from Lotus, you really think he's gonna let her just walk away? God damn it! You guys go on ahead. As soon as June starts feeling better, we'll follow you. Go! Junpei looked at June. She nodded once. She couldn't manage much more. But it was all the confirmation Junpei needed. His resolve was set. Alright, come on, Seven. We're going after Ace. Hell yeah. Santa, you take good care of June. I'm trusting you. Santa nodded. Junpei turned before he had a chance to change his mind and started running toward the door. He could hear Seven's heavy footsteps behind him. Let's go! Junpei and Seven exploded into the hallway, their feet pounding the metal door as they ran. The metal floor. I wonder if he's gonna get away, like if this ending is, we find out that it's him, that he's like a crazy person, but we don't get out in the time limit we had, because we only had an hour. Like we have to have like probably like 20 minutes now. You need this ending though to get to the true ending, apparently. Junpei and Seven had finally arrived at the church, exhausted and out of breath. As their lungs struggled to catch their breath, their eyes frantically scanned the room. No sign of Ace or Lotus. You think they already went through? He reached up to wipe a palm full of sweat from his brow. Maybe. Even as he spoke, Junpei was already on his way to the larger of the numbered doors. He looked at the red. The display panel read vacant. He spun around and headed toward the smaller one. This red would tell him if Ace and Lotus had moved to another room. Yep. Engaged. It's occupied. That means Ace and Lotus went through here. Yeah, it seems like it. Junpei and Seven stepped away from the door. They retreated to the center of the room and began to talk. What do we do now? Yeah, what should we do? Well, the big door is still vacant, but the two of us can't do anything with it. Yeah. First of all, our digital route is not 9. Just then, as they were pondering what to do next, there was a noise like someone hitting a thick wooden panel. The coffin! I forgot about that. Junpei looked up, surprised. Seven followed suit, his eyes jumping around the room, looking for the source of the sound. It wasn't long before they found the altar. Or more precisely, what was on it. The coffin. Yeah. Let's open it. How? By force. I don't think that's gonna happen. But you never know till you try, right? The only necessity for success is the willingness to suffer 1,000 failures.
Who said that?
I forget. Anyway, we've got to try. Junpei and Seven leapt at the coffin. They grabbed hold of what purchase they could find and pulled. Ah! Damn it!
See, didn't I tell you? If you could just pull it open, why would it have something like that?
Seven pointed at a keypad on the side of the coffin. Right, so unless I put in the right passcode, it's not going to open. The noise hadn't stopped. In fact, as it continued, it had only gotten louder and more forceful. What were they supposed to do? Junpei wondered. Was there some sort of clue somewhere? They stood there for a few moments, staring at the coffin, and then Seven spoke.
Hey, Junpei. I remember you mumbling about some weird numbers over by the bathroom in the first-class cabin. You got those numbers by solving the secret message Clover was holding, right? Truth had gone, or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. What about it?
Well, maybe that number's the passcode for this thing, too.
Come on, that's impossible. Those numbers were the code to unlock that safe.
Yeah, but the person who set up that safe in this coffin is the same person, right? Zero set up both of these.
Yeah, probably.
Well, then they might have set the same passcode for both of them.
That's ridiculous.
Why don't you just try it? I mean, it's not like you'll make things any worse.
Just be a waste of time. There's no way they're the same number.
How do you know that? You never know until you try.
Yeah. Gonna use my quote against me? Who said that?
You.
Fine. He knelt down in front of the keypad and looked at it. Perhaps because he'd repeated them so many times before the numbers came easily to Junpei. Quickly, he typed them in. He checked that he'd entered the right numbers, took a deep breath, and pressed the E button. It only took a moment. What? You've got to be kidding me. There was a click. Who is it? And with a heavy clunk, the lid of the coffin slid off onto the floor. Someone sat up from inside. Snake!
You? Why?
What the hell? Those voices. Junpei and Seven, unless I'm mistaken. Where are the others? Are they elsewhere? Of course, there was no reason Snake would have known anything about where anyone else would be. Junpei and Seven looked at one another. There was a great deal he needed to know, but they had to tell him something, however, so they began to talk. Snake explained to them how he came to be locked in the coffin. Apparently, he'd been hit with some sort of knockout gas, and Junpei and Seven explained what had happened to the rest of them. There was one thing, however, that neither Seven nor Junpei could bring themselves to say, that Ace had killed Clover. They feared that if Snake knew, he might, well, go insane. They decided as much by the moment Snake had climbed out of the coffin. Snake's story explained frustratingly little. Zero's true identity was a mystery, as were his intentions. Why had Zero put a Guy X in Snake's clothes? If Zero had left a note for them to say the Nonui game had been played 9 years before, was there some connection? Junpei put the question to Snake. His answer was less than illuminating. What are you talking about? I apologize, but I have no idea what you're saying. It seemed as though Snake was perhaps not being entirely honest, but that knowledge did Junpei and Seven little good. No matter how many times they asked, he insisted that he knew nothing. It was becoming clear that Snake wouldn't give in, and every second they spent asking him was a second wasted. Their time limit was fast approaching. Snake's release from the coffin had changed nothing. They still needed to follow Ace as quickly as possible. However, they stood in silence, the overpowering atmosphere of the chapel almost stifling. Junpei, Seven, and Snake simply stood at a loss for what they should do next. What do we do now? He glanced over at Snake's wrist. Surely enough, he could see the 2 on the bracelet on Snake's wrist. The 3 of us can't make a digital root of 9. Yeah, we just get 5. We're stuck here then.
Oh, hey, I just remembered something. Seven began patting his pockets as if he were checking to see if any of them held anything.
What? What is it?
I found something earlier.
What did you find?
This.
He'd finally found the pocket he wanted, and his hand dove into it. Round and metal. 0? A bracelet. There was no mistaking the number glowing at them from the face like a cartoon eye. 0. Zero's bracelet. What the hell? Are you saying that 7 has the number 0 bracelet? Yeah. Where did you get that? Snake's question was innocent enough, but if he learned the truth, if he'd been able to see, he would have noticed 7 look away.
Clover gave it to me.
She did?
Yeah.
How did she come by it?
Well, she found it, see, on the other side of door 1, a deck in the captain's quarters. She asked me to hold on to it, because it was too big and bulky for her to be lugging around.
It was a lie, and Junpei knew it. Yeah, you want to lie to me, 7? Oh, he did say he borrowed something.
Alright, Junpei. Been nice knowing you.
What? What?
7 plus 2 equals 9. Come on, man, I'm just kidding. Still, just in case, I want to make sure the 0 bracelet gets picked up by the red. Snake, give me a hand, alright?
So me and Snake can go... Oh, no, him and Snake can go through. Without waiting for a response, he started walking toward the door. Junpei and Snake followed him quietly. Before long, they found themselves in front of the larger of the 2 doors. 7 and Snake put their palms on the... Once they'd done that, 7 put the number 0 bracelet up to it. A third asterisk appeared on the screen. 7 plus 2 plus 0 is 9. Now they just need to pull the lever. Didn't work. Huh? Why isn't it opening?
Oh, the third asterisk lit up, so it must have registered the 0 bracelet.
Maybe it isn't actually 0. Huh? What? That bracelet may not actually produce the number 0 when scanned. That is what I'm saying. So maybe it's like a times or a plus? Like it's... Why don't we try a few different combinations? Perhaps we can determine what number that bracelet actually contains. Or it just contains a different number. Junpei nodded. They decided to use the following combinations. Let's try all of us. Why not? No. Snake plus Junpei. Nope. So it's Junpei plus 7 plus the bracelet then, right? Yep. So it opened. Yes, so it would seem. 7 clearly hadn't thought their experimentation would produce anything useful. It looked rather confused. Snake was as usual calm and smug. The door slid closed. Junpei's forehead furrowed as he thought. That meant the number for the mysterious bracelet was 6. 5 plus... yeah. But how could it be 6? The display on the bracelet clearly showed a 0. Suddenly, from somewhere far beneath them, they heard the creak and groan of tearing metal. With it came the sound of water pouring into parts of the ship that had until recently been dry.
Oh man, that's not good. I guess our time's just about up, huh?
At any rate, we know now that the door can be opened. Let's go. But, Snake, are you sure?
Yeah, you know that only Junpei and I can go through this way.
You needn't worry. I have a solution to this problem, my last resort. But if now is not the time for last resorts, then when? Last
resort?
Hide in that coffin, maybe? Junpei, 7, and Snake ran full tilt down a long, straight hallway. Oh, Snake must have came with us then. They were headed for the stern of the ship and had no time for distractions. As they ran, 7 spoke.
Gotta admit, you really surprised me there, kid. I couldn't figure out how the hell you were gonna get out of that one. How come you didn't do that right off the bat?
As I told you, it was the last resort. Had I used it at the beginning of the game, I would have come under a great deal of suspicion. I imagine most people would have taken it to mean that I was 0. Once they convinced themselves of that, I wasn't optimistic about my chances of making it out of here alive, let alone unscathed. I felt it best to play my cards close to the chest, as it were.
That way, if I were in a situation where there was nothing else I could do, I'd have a little trick up my sleeve. I'd just take my bracelet off. It was on his broken arm, his prosthetic arm. Snake's plan had been simple but effective. He'd simply removed his bracelet. How? To Junpei, it had looked as though Snake had simply crushed the bones of his hand small enough through the wristband. Of course, that would have been practically impossible. How he had done it? Because his arm is prosthetic. He just ripped his arm off pretty much. Like the fake arm. Snake had slid the bracelet off and tossed it into the coffin. With it gone, he had little to fear from the numbered doors. He'd walked through the door easily without authenticating. He stepped out to the other side unscathed and begun running down the hall. They kept running for a while longer and eventually came upon a set of stairs leading downward on the right side of the hallway. They stopped and peered down the staircase. As far as they could tell, it went all the way to the bottom deck. There didn't seem to be any flooding. They nodded quickly to one another and jogged down the stairs. It took only a few minutes to make their way to the bottom deck. There was a single hallway in front of them, at the end of which was a single door. Junpei threw it open. Inside was a massive iron gate. A plate was affixed to the top of it. It read Incinerator. Incinerator? Oh my, that doesn't sound very pleasant. Do you see a lever near the gate, perhaps? Yeah, right over here.
How did you know that?
Well, I'd be happy to regale you with the story. I imagine it should only take half a day or so.
Junpei grumbled and gave Snake a dirty look and jogged over to the lever.
If you pull it, the door ought to open. Got it. He pulled the lever down.
With the rumble of an ancient motor, the door opened. There was no need to hold back and no time to hesitate. They pushed their way inside. Standing in front of them were Ace and Lotus. Ace still held the revolver in his hand. It was still pressed hard against Lotus's temple. A small dark bruise had begun to form near the tip. Even from several yards away, Junpei could see that Lotus was shaking. She was terrified, but perhaps more interesting was that Junpei saw behind them. 9. Another number 9 door. But why? Why was there another one? The door stopped Junpei in his tracks. It simply shouldn't have been there. As his brain finally began to consider why, the whine of a warning klaxon filled the air, drowning out any thought. Warning! Warning! Emergency incineration command has been acknowledged. Automatic incineration will take place in 9 minutes. Please evacuate the incinerator immediately.
Oh my, how exciting. You're running quite a show here, Zero.
A terrifying smile twisted Ace's face.
What's the matter? Too frightened to understand? Here, let me explain.
It said that the incineration system is about to activate. This room will be engulfed in flames.
Huh? Who are you?
You don't recognize me? I'm hurt. It's me, Snake.
Snake? Ah, yeah, you're alive. I'm afraid your bizarre style had me confused. I'm quite glad to see that you're alive.
Ace's voice didn't change. Snake ground his teeth.
If you don't mind me my asking, how did you get here?
Snake, Junpei, 7.
The 3 of you couldn't have opened a door with a 9. Did you use Clover's bracelet, perhaps?
What?
Oh, well, your reaction suggests that you did not.
Hold on! Why did you think we'd have Clover's bracelet? Junpei felt his chest tighten.
Oh, they haven't told you?
Told me what?
Clearly not. Normally I would take some time and enjoy the moment, but I'm afraid my time is at a premium just now. I'll have to make this quick. Clover.
Don't do it, Ace! Keep your goddamn mouth shut!
Clover.
I said stop it! Don't listen to him, Snake. Junpei could feel his voice going hoarse, but Snake didn't listen to him. What happened to Clover? Ace looked at him. The corner of his mouth curled into the hook of a cruel smile.
Clover died.
The color left Snake's face. He shook his head weakly. No, that's not true. That's impossible. It's a lie. It has to be a lie.
Oh, it's quite true. I can assure you of that. I killed her myself, you see.
What?
I'm sorry. Did I stutter?
I
killed her.
Snake's face twisted into a mask of rage, mottled red rising to dot his pale skin. His entire body shook. He looked to Junpei disturbingly like a demon.
I would have rather she died with less suffering. A bullet in her brain, perhaps, would have been ideal. But Fortunately, that would have made quite a bit of noise. Circumstances being what they were, I was forced to settle for the knife. The one the ninth man had, you remember. I believe I caught her just below the shoulder blade. I was rather lucky, in fact. My first thrust was right between her ribs. Her flesh was so soft. My knife slid in so easily, there was no resistance. That feeling was, I confess, I feel rather excited. It is a powerful memory. Someday perhaps I hope I can feel it again.
Incineration will begin. 7 minutes. I'm going to kill you. Snake's words were a guttural growl, barely audible.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm going to kill you.
So you're going to kill me. Please do. Come now, I'm waiting.
Don't do it. Don't listen to him, Snake.
Stop it, kid. He's screwing with your head. Is there a problem? What are you waiting for, boy? Don't you want me to send you to join your sister?
Don't! Snake!
Don't do it.
But Snake could no longer hear them. Snake could no longer hear anything. Snake moved like a bolt of lightning. His scream echoed through the incineration chamber, full of rage and despair. Snake!
Snake!
Reference there. Damn, Snake. He shot him, but we can kind of charge him now, right? Yeah! Another scream filled the room. It was Lotus. She ran across the room toward Junpei, her eyes wide with terror. Snake's ill-fated attack had loosened Ace's grip on her, and she'd made a run for it. She reached Seven and Junpei and ducked behind them. Junpei could feel her fingers on his arm, tight enough to be painful, keeping him between her and Ace. Incineration will begin. 5 minutes.
Give me the woman. He raised the gun. I need her. Without her bracelet, I will be unable to open this door. Quickly now. I don't have time for your shenanigans. In the center of the room, Snake's body lay eerily still. He looked like a human larva, prone and vulnerable on the floor. I see. Then it would seem I have no choice. The rest of you must die as well. Fortunately, I have 5 bullets left. 1 for Junpei, another for Lotus, and the last 3 for that lump of idiotic man you call Seven. I will take Lotus's body with me and leave this room.
4 minutes.
Well, looks as though our time together is at an end. I rather enjoyed playing with you. Bye.
Junpei could see Ace's finger tightening. He could see it begin to squeeze down on the trigger. His body tensed, preparing for the catastrophic impact of hot lead against human flesh. Then it happened. Snake stood up.
What? No, that's impossible.
For the first time, Ace's composure broke. With obvious effort, Snake lunged forward, 1 step closer to Ace, then another. He looked for all the world like a zombie. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. His voice was the mournful wailing of the undead.
Stay away from me. Get back. Stop. If you come any closer, I'll get away from me.
Little by little, Ace was retreating. Snake didn't stop. He continued his stiff, inexorable approach, his eyes twin pools of pure fury.
Listen to me. I said don't come any closer. Shit. You bastard.
He's gonna use all his shots on Ace. I mean on a Snake. Ace's revolver leapt 5 times. 5 times the air and the incinerator was split by the crack of a bullet. Snake's body twitched as 5 clouds of blood and torn flesh leapt into the air across his body. A fine pink mist drifted from his body and disappeared. Snake made a strange sort of choking cough. And then his strength was gone. His legs crumbled and his broken and battered body slid to the floor. Incineration will begin. 3 minutes. But Snake wasn't done. Damn! Even as the pool of blood beneath him grew, he began to move. He half crawled, half slid toward Ace. One bloody arm wrapped itself around Ace's leg, and the other gripped his thigh with strength that should have been long gone.
You son of a bitch! You're a monster! Get off of me! Let me go! Damn you!
Get him, Snake! He kicked at Snake with his free leg, driving his foot into Snake's face. His arm, his shoulder, it made no difference. Snake refused to release him. Once a snake has ensnared its prey, rarely does it release it. This is it, Ace. We're going to burn to death together.
What?
Incineration will begin in 2 minutes.
Ah! Damn it! Damn God! Get off! Let me go, you monster!
Okay, look, think about this. My company owns a wonderful hospital. It has excellent doctors. You're not wounded too seriously. I'm sure they can fix you up. You don't have to die. You can be saved. Just let me go.
Pathetic. Begging for your life. Then Seven and Lotus began to speak. Junpei could hear tears in their voices, and their words were strained. Snake.
That's enough. You can stop now.
Yeah, he's right, Snake. You've done enough.
Come on, Snake. Let go. Let's get out of here.
You have to come with us. We have to leave together.
Snake turned toward them. He coughed and blood splattered across the floor. Then he smiled a sad sort of smile. I apologize, but I'm afraid I can't do that. You'd best forget about me. You need to leave soon. I'm going to take him with me.
Shut up. Be quiet.
I couldn't save Clover. My sister died because of me. Perhaps this will begin to atone for that. Perhaps in the afterlife, she can forgive me. Now go! Go now! You have to go!
Incineration will begin in 1 minute.
God damn it, shit, we're out of time. We have to go.
Seven ran toward the exit. Lotus followed him, but Junpei couldn't move. There were white lines down Snake's cheeks where his tears had washed the blood away. He was broken body and soul, and Junpei felt as though half of his own heart had been torn out. His eyes stung, and he tried desperately to swallow to clear the lump in his throat. Junpei, what are you doing? You have to get out of here now. Junpei's chest tightened, pulled taut by anger, misery, and a cold feeling of emptiness. Pure emotion surged through his heart alongside the torrent of blood. He could feel it building, a tremendous wave growing taller and taller and taller, and then it broke crashing down with thunderous force onto his shaken, unprepared mind. Snake! Snake! Junpei's rational mind was gone. He was driven by instinct now, and he launched himself across the floor at Snake and Ace, where he tried to.
Wait! Don't be an idiot, Junpei!
He felt a hand grab him from behind. It was Seven. Before he had time to react, the larger man had pinned Junpei's arms to his sides and was hauling him bodily back toward the door.
No! No! I have to help Snake! 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 Get off of me! Let me go!
Incineration will begin in 10 seconds.
Ah! Ah!
7, 6.
Damn it! I don't got a choice, kid. Don't blame me for this, alright?
5. He knocked him out.
No!
1, 0. Gates 2 and 3 are locked down, beginning incineration. Junpei felt Seven's fist bury itself deep in his stomach, and then his legs turned to mush. Seven scooped him up in the same motion and leapt through the door. It slammed shut behind them. Junpei struggled to shaky feet. He glanced over to see Lotus only a short distance away. Junpei ran to the door. There was a small window cut into it. Inside he could see Ace and Snake.
Shit! Damn you all! Why? Why? Why me? I don't deserve this! Answer me! Answer me, Zero! Why? Why? 0! 0!
Burn! Rest in peace, Snake. But you burn, Ace!
0!
He didn't know how much time passed. He didn't know how long he stood there in front of the incinerator. He looked to the side. Lotus's face was ashen, and if not for the hand she'd put against the wall, Junpei didn't think she could have stood. Seven looked old and tired and used his eyes, stared at the floor, seeing nothing. Junpei said nothing. He simply began to walk toward the open door in the hallway they'd come down earlier.
Hey, wait, Junpei.
Junpei, where are you going? He blinked when their voices broke silence. He stopped. You stay here. I'll go get Santa and June.
You're gonna bring them here?
How? Don't worry about that. Just stay here and wait. Alright? He began to walk again. He looked over his shoulder and watched Seven and Lotus grow smaller and smaller. They stared back, not moving. He wasn't sure if they could. He turned around again. He knew where he was going. When they'd walked through the hallway earlier, he'd noticed an elevator at the end of the side hallway. If it still worked, then maybe. Before long, Junpei found himself in front of the elevator. Junpei was in the large hospital room. June! Santa! He kept calling and walked to the center of the room. They're gone? But try as he might, he can't find them. He couldn't find them. Ah, damn it! Where did they go? Increasingly frustrated and increasingly worried, Junpei left the large hospital room. He had no choice. He would have to look for them. Junpei's heart was heavy. He couldn't shake the feeling, but there was a part of him that felt it would be wrong to even if he could. With every step he took, his legs felt more and more like lead. Sometime later, Junpei found himself at the chapel. He stepped inside, expecting to find nothing, but there on the red carpet in the center of the room. June! No code name. This didn't matter any longer. She was Canny. Canny! Junpei cried her name and ran. Like lightning, he ran across the room toward her. Oh man, Canny! He stumbled to a stop. As he looked down at her body lying so still on the floor, he felt the icy grip of fear upon his heart. She was still, so very still. No, it couldn't be, it was impossible. Slowly, Junpei bent down toward her. His hands shook and he felt very cold and very hot at the same time. He forced himself to look. Her back was moving slowly. It rose and fell. Relief washed over him. Canny! Junpei reached down and very gently lifted her. Canny! Canny! Are you alright? Jumpy. Her face was pale and her lips were dry and cracked. Her eyes were blank and cloudy. They stared straight at Junpei but saw nothing. Trembling, Junpei wrapped his arms around her back. She was cold, very cold. Junpei tried to convince himself that it was only his imagination, but she felt as though she were fading away. He could feel his heart pounding frantically in his chest. Oh man, Canny! What the hell happened to you? You feel... Jumpy, I'm sorry. Her voice was very faint. I might not make it. No way. No way am I gonna let you die. I'm gonna save you. Thank you, Jumpy. Thank you so much for everything. I was really happy to see you again. Really happy. Don't give me that. I was crap. You're gonna see me again lots more times. You've just gotta hang on, alright, Canny? Jumpy, did you know? You meant a lot to me when we were kids. I've liked you for a long time, Junpei. A really long time. Junpei's vision had gone blurry. It took him a moment to realize his eyes were filled with tears. He could feel a piercing point of heat deep in his heart, like a white, hot flame. He looked down at Akane. Game over. There was a crack of static from above his head, and a voice spoke. 0. You son of a bitch! Where are you hiding? Junpei frantically scanned the ceiling for the source of the voice. I am right here. I've always been close to you. What the hell are you talking about? No matter. I will tell you again. Game over. This game has ended. No, it hasn't. I'm not gonna let it end yet. I'm gonna get out of here with Canny. You can't. That is impossible. Why? Because you chose the wrong path. The wrong path? That is correct. Your path was inevitable, however. Admit defeat. Where there is shadow, there is light. Where there is light, there is shadow. So it goes. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? It matters not. The loser has been decided. I told you I'm not gonna lose! No. You misunderstand. You haven't lost. I have lost. What? Junpei didn't have time to ponder what that meant before. He heard the door slam shut behind him. He spun around. There was no one there. Was it Zero? Canny, wait here. I'll be right back, I promise. She managed a single nod. Junpei laid her back down gently and leapt for the door. He yanked it open and shot it outside. No one. The hall was empty. There was nothing moving anywhere. Damn it! He didn't want to leave Canny alone any longer than he had to, so Junpei turned around and headed back to the chapel. Canny? She wasn't there. She wasn't anywhere. She'd been lying there on the floor just moments before, and now she was gone. Oh, God. No. No. Where is she? Canny. 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 Canny! His cries split the heavens themselves. He screamed until his voice gave out. He screamed, then he screamed some more. But there was no answer. His voice faded away, and all that remained was cold and unfeeling silence. That was when he noticed it. A strange smell, once he'd smelled before. The canister. The smell of a peculiar white smoke. 9 seconds later, Junpei's mind winked out. Damn. So that was that ending. Now we got actual credits for this. We're skipping through this though. I want to see if anything happens. So I believe this is the safe ending. This was the one we wanted. The end? Or is it? Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9. Oh no, this is I can't skip this. Why? Now it is time. Let our game begin. Why can't I skip that? Okay. Yes. So, if I'm correct, that was the ending we wanted. Memories of the escape. Alright. This was the ending we wanted, right? I hope it was. Alright, I'm gonna end this here. This was a really long part, almost 2 hours. But I wanted to get the ending done. Thanks for watching, guys. Leave a like, subscribe, share with a friend. So I'm gonna try and skip through the initial look arounds, and hopefully next part will be the true ending, and then we're gonna end it there because I'm not gonna bother getting the other endings. They're not the true one. The true one is the one we want. The rest are kind of like death endings and whatnot. It's not too great, but you pick up the game yourself. I recommend it, and play through the endings. See you guys later.